Kellyanne, was it a mistake not to go out and say, well, if you don't like the way I spoke about women, what about the way your husband treated women?
It was an exercise in tremendous restraint, and restraint is a virtue. And in fact, Brian, it's a presidential virtue. I think Donald Trump's restraint there in not bringing up what millions of Americans must have had on their minds, which is, really, she's going to take you on a comment here and there you've made about women, and yet her husband has admitted to having affairs, and of course, including one with an intern in the White House when he was president of the United States, paid out a settlement to Paula Jones. The last time I didn't sexually harass someone, I didn't give them $700,000 in a settlement. So instead of going there, he explained, hey, I'm prepared to do that. I knew this was coming, but I'm not going to do it because your husband and your daughter are here. And then he went on to say, and yet this doesn't stop you, Hillary Clinton, from running hundreds of millions of dollars of negative ads against me. Those are just the ads you see, by the way. We now have these mail pieces that are about Trump and women going to independent Republican-leading women in states like Florida. We just got those yesterday, brought to our attention. So I think this will grow in importance over the next couple of days when people realize what he didn't say, what was conspicuous by its absence. It doesn't mean people won't think it, though. It doesn't mean that they already haven't made up their own minds.
Well, last night was historic. First time we'd seen a woman on a presidential stage. First time in history that I can remember where you've got somebody who is not a professional politician.
That's right.
A businessman.
Maybe Ross Perot?
Yeah, same thing. And then you've got he's got many opportunities to take shots at her. You've got to do some training ahead of time, though, and it was revealed that apparently he didn't do the standard debate prep where you get in a room, you answer questions for 90 minutes. Given how the first one went, will there be changes in the preparation for the second one?
He did a lot of debate prep, Steve. I think that's a myth that people are pushing to sort of diminish like how serious he is about this. He's incredibly serious. He takes the job very seriously. He didn't need to run for president. People run for fame and fortune and status and power. He had all of that. The sacrifice he and the Trump family are making is enormous, and it should not be lost on folks. She's the one who's got that typical DC political resume. Hey, this should come next. I waited my turn. I'm next. I deserve it. But when it comes to debate preparation, he did take rapid fire questions for quite a while from a number of us, and he handled them beautifully. I thought some of the questions last night were completely predictable. We knew they were coming. We know what the obsessions are, particularly in the mainstream media. So that didn't come as a surprise. But I also think Donald Trump, if he's guilty of anything, it's answering every single question that's asked of him, as opposed to Hillary Clinton deflecting, and thoroughly, as opposed to her deflecting and trying to get out every single thing she had memorized so we all can see how over-prepared she was. Look, anybody watching that debate last night did not see in Hillary Clinton a change maker, a disruptor, somebody who can credibly say with a straight face she's going to change the status quo in Washington. If you're worried about your job, or you're worried about having a well-paying job, you're concerned about chronic wage stagnation, you think that radical Islamic terrorists are savage murderers and not our, quote, determined enemies, as she famously referred to them in her convention speech, then you know who you're going to vote for. I'm not sure that changed any minds last night. Meanwhile, he took the case right to her, especially on matters like trade and ISIS. Basically holding her to account for her record and for President Obama's record on those issues.
Mr. Podesta was on our set earlier, about an hour ago, and we were talking about
campaign manager.
Exactly, for Hillary Clinton. And he said, if you attack the moderator, then that means you have lost the debate. Now, keep in mind, they attacked
Matt Lauer, terrible, because she was so awful in that commander-in-chief for him.
Well, and I asked him about that, and so what do you think about that? Do you want to go after Lester Holt? I mean, I heard last night. Yeah, did you think he was fair?
So Mr. Trump and I have both said publicly, and I'll repeat it here, Ainsley, that Lester Holt did a good job, and he did a great job under very tough circumstances. One of the things that nobody's ever going to be satisfied with is, why wasn't this issue raised? Why wasn't that issue raised? And I saw your graphic earlier that Donald Trump was grilled, indeed cross-examined on a number of issues. You listed them there, and that didn't happen with Hillary Clinton on Benghazi, on emails. Mr. Trump had to mention the emails.
Pay for play.
No real. That's right. The State Department.
Deplorables.
By the way, the deplorables things. Pick a card, any card. The fact that she's for late-term abortion, a sex-selective abortion, if we're talking about domestic issues, the fact that she changed her mind, did a total 180 on gay marriage. She ran in 2008, emphatically defending traditional marriage, and now running in 2016 has totally shifted on that completely. So there are many things that weren't asked. But look, that's why it's important to have full-fledged campaigns in between these debates. I think it's too bad that people had to wait to tune into a presidential debate to see how Hillary Clinton really thinks on the issues. Unless you're a fat cat donor at one of her her fundraisers. You don't get the benefit on a regular basis to hear what she thinks. Contrast that to Donald Trump, who's out in the stump every day. He's on his way to Florida now after a long night last night. He'll have a long day in Florida today. Then he'll be in Chicago tomorrow and Wisconsin. Why?
After going
because
to the
he's
spin
bringing
room.
the case. That's right. He's bringing the case directly to people. Going to the spin room was unprecedented. I was so glad he wanted to do that.
Right, and I'm so weak because you got.
Yeah, you got a great interview.
Yeah, thanks.
Kellyanne, thank you very much
Thank you.
for dropping by.
Anytime. Thanks.
Appreciate it.
All right. By the way, we should point out, while we had Donald Trump on the program, we invite Hillary Clinton on the program every day. Same thing for
Right.
Tim.
She's always booked.
They simply
Anytime she
declined.
wants to accept that
She's
invitation,
preparing for the
we
next
welcome
debate.
her.
Exactly.
All right. Meanwhile, on this Tuesday, Donald Trump hammering Hillary Clinton last night on her plan to fight ISIS.
I'll take the admirals and I'll take the generals any day over the political hacks that I see that have led our country so brilliantly.